la canto.
All right. Love that. Good to see you.
That was a composition called Wapango by Jose Pablo Moncayo. It's a type of dance Wapango is from Veracruz, and it was inspired this work while he was visiting his friend Aaron Copland, who's the U.S. composer of Appalachian Spring. So he composed it in the United States, but it's one of the most beautiful pieces that this composer did. His name was Moncayo. So welcome, fellow Rotarians, and this is meeting number 5261 since this club was formed. So please use your chat feature to introduce your guests while we're speaking. But now we're going to have the birthday slide from John During, who will show that it's all the birthdays in August. Huh, John? Yeah.
Is someone going to sing happy birthday to him?
We're going to sing happy birthday to Richard Alejandro.
Oh.
It's his birthday today. He's the only one that was born on this particular date. And I was going to say that he's a better traveled farm worker than I was. His family took him all over from Texas to Illinois to Florida.
Pobrecitos, pobre Texas, please. That's it. Thank you very much.
And he's glad he's in California. So happy birthday, Richard, or as our mom would
Thank you.
say.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy birthday, Richard.
Or as our moms would say, feliz cumpleaños.
Gracias. Muchas gracias.
You feel any older now that you're in Gilroy?
No, man. I feel like I'm back in the farms. I love it.
You are in the farms. That's one of the places where I went to school. There was three classes in each room around that curve there on 152 going outside of Gilroy. It was called San Isidro Grammar School. They're
harvesting peppers 3 blocks from my house right now. It smells great.
Okay. Well, we wanted to make sure that you understood that we're all thinking of you, Richard. So, feliz cumpleaños, amigo. Next, we got Sal Pizarro. He's a world-renowned San Jose Mercury News columnist and man about town. He'll tell us what's going on. Okay, cue that Marvin Gaye music of what's going on.
What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Wanna know what's going on?
Okay, Sal, hit it.
Okay. Let me see. John, is it possible for me to share my screen?
Of course. There you go.
All right. Hold on. I'll get this called up here. I actually put a little effort into it this month because I know Fernando's been doing such a great job that I had to step up my game a little. So let's see here. Okay. And I'm working on it. Just get post disabled participant screen sharing.
Sal, let me see if I can fix that.
Okay. We go over, Fernando, you can blame me.
All right. Happy to do so.
Hang on one second.
As Sal's former editor, he's missing another deadline.
Okay, Sal, I made you a co-host. You should be able to screen share now.
Looks good. And this going and okay.
Here we go.
Here we go. So here's what we have going on this month. If you haven't been out to San Pedro Square lately, San Pedro Street is now closed to traffic and it is open for outdoor dining. Several of the restaurants have set up tables out there. It's really nice when the weather's good. And of course, San Pedro Square Market has also got its outdoor space open for dining. So San Jose is doing its part to give our restaurants a little bit more room so people can eat together but still be apart and safe. Next up, another place you may not have been is the Fairmont Hotel's Lobby Lounge. Of course, a lot of us have spent time there, and you might remember it looking like this. Well, they've completed their renovation, and it now looks like this. It is a dramatic change. And of course, the sad part is that bar, which is now in the center of the room, is entirely empty at the moment because we can't have people hanging out in there. But we're hoping at some point, maybe by the holidays, we'll all be able to be back in there. So next, perhaps you saw in my column on Sunday, Urban Confluence Silicon Valley, which our own President-elect Steve Borkenhagen is the executive director of, has published all their submissions, 963 of them online. You can see the website there on the bottom. The jury met this week, and they're coming to their decisions, and they'll announce 3 finalists for a potential new San Jose landmark on September 18th. The one I have here is called Spirit of Light, and it includes sort of the shape of the original light tower, which stood in downtown San Jose. So please take a look at those. You may find one you love, you may find a lot you hate. Another good thing is that downtown San Jose parking garages are now free for 90 minutes. They reopened this week, so reminds me of the parking about 20 years ago when we used to get a couple hours free. You get 90 minutes. That if we ever get back in the Rotary Summit Center, that may help us for our meetings. It's $1 every 15 minutes after that, though, so don't linger if you don't have to.
You got 15 seconds, pal.
Here we go. And last thing I wanted to highlight, a theater company, Tabard Theater, is doing their last weekend of performances of Looking Over the President's Shoulder, which is the story of the White House butler. It's a one-man show, and they're doing these as live stream performances. They're not recorded, and you can see the dates there. You can buy tickets at tabardtheater.org.
Thanks, Sal. Listen, thank you very much, Sal, because we don't want to eat up into Brian Adams' time. He's going to tell us
never
inspirational thought. Hit it, Brian. He's, of course, a TV broadcaster for 22 years, so he's used to these deadlines. He's the former president of the club. So he's
from. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Fernando.
Well, I just building you up. So go ahead.
Well, my inspiration for today's thoughts come from various people whose words and deeds have meant a lot to me in my life. Last Friday was the feast day of St. Ignatius of Loyola, who was the founder of the Society of Jesus, better known as the Jesuits, who happen to be my bosses. And St. Ignatius coined the phrase years ago and encouraged people to go forth and set the world on fire. And he was not calling for pyromaniacs. He was encouraging all of us to make a difference, to go out and make our mark on the world. And Pedro Arrupe, who was the 28th Superior General of the Jesuits, he called for people to be for and with others. And I really like that. It's really a Jesuit motto, an Ignatian motto, to be men and women for and with others. And I've always considered that as a Rotarian to be very similar to the Rotary motto of service above self. I think that's something that speaks to all of us. And when in doubt in a troubled world, let's always turn to that great modern philosopher, Fred Rogers. Now, how many of you, come on, admit it, how many of you were neighbors? Come on, you were part of the neighborhood of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, right? And Fred Rogers once said this: we live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say, it's not my child, it's not my community, not my world, not my problem. Then there are those who see the need and respond, and I consider those people my heroes. That's what Fred Rogers said. And finally, the words of my late mother, Pauline Adams, and her philosophy that I try to embrace a little bit each day, which is sometimes you have to make your own fun. And so, friends and fellow Rotarians, I want to thank you for being difference makers, for responding to the needs of the community, and, as we all know, for more than occasionally having fun.
Right on time. Thank you very much. We can't wait for Karnak the Magnificent next year, Brian. Next, we have our newest member, Lenore Keeve, daughter of our late and beloved Bob Keeve. Lenore, please tell us about yourself.
Hi, am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Come
Great. Thank you, Fernando. I want to say I am so grateful and so honored to be welcomed into this club, into this community that meant so much to my dad. Many of you knew my dad, Bob Keeve, and he considered so many of you his dear, dear friends. I attended meetings with him recently, and he would stay till the end. And oftentimes he would look up into the room and he'd say, "What a great group of people this is. I am so lucky to be able to call so many of these people my friends. So thank you. It means a lot to me." A little about myself. I was born in Rochester, New York. And as a toddler, my family moved out here when my father bought the radio station KLIV in 1967. I went to an all-girls private school in Palo Alto called Castellea. And for college, I went to UC San Diego, where I studied English Lit and minored in theater and psychology. For the past couple of decades, I've been the director of business travel, overseeing 3 hotels in Palo Alto, which kept me busy negotiating, traveling, cultivating new business and relationships. And about a year ago, I decided to leave my job. I wanted to be more present and helpful in the lives of my aging parents, and I'm very glad I did that. Fun facts, I love hiking and cooking, especially plant-based food. Have you ever tried cashew cheddar or a cultured almond ricotta or a sausage made out of walnuts and sun-dried tomatoes? Don't knock them till you've tried them. And my passion is giving help to those without a voice. Over 5,000 animals are killed in the US shelters every single day. These wonderful animals end up in shelters through no fault of their own, but simply because their people have failed them. So I will advocate for a dog, work with a local rescue as a partner, transport the dog, offer my home as a foster home, and then I'll interview applicants until the dog is placed in a good home. And then hope to start the process all over again and save one dog at a time. And so at this time, I have a little bit of a visual. This is Lucy, and Lucy was on death row, and she is a perfect little girl. She's doing great now. And there is a saying that goes, "You can't change the world by saving one dog at a time, but for that one dog, you can change the world forever." And I think my time's up. Thank you so much for giving me that 3 minutes.
You bet. And we've got a surprise for you. And Lucy spelled Loosey?
No, Lucy.
Okay, Karen, are you there? Come in, Karen. Are you unmuted?
Yep, I'm unmuted. Hi, Lenore.
Hi, Karen.
A few minutes ago, I asked you to go to your front door and look at a surprise we had left for you. A group of Rotarians got together and put together a book with some stories about your father, some wonderful pictures that Carl Silker collected, and we hope you enjoy it. I'll hand it off to you, and there will be a copy in the office for those who want to see it. So welcome to our club, Lenore. Here you go.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much this has touched me. This means so much to me, and this will forever be on my coffee table and in my heart. And I want to thank you, Karen, and I want to thank anyone else who had any contribution or anything to do with this. This is absolutely touching. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome.
It was Karen's idea, and she brought it together. Thank you, Karen.
Thank
and
you.
Welcome, Lenore. And next, we got Nancy Williams and Sarah Janigan giving us an update on the gala. You guys there? Come in, Nancy or Sarah? No? How about our executive director? Can you help us out here, pal?
Fernando, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Nancy, are you on? Sorry about that. Nancy had the first part of the presentation, so I'm going to do my part, and she'll...
Here.
Oh, there she is.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, I kept saying, I'm here, I'm here. Nobody's hearing me.
Well, it's on mute.
Well, we just wanted to give you kind of a wrap up on the gala, which didn't happen. We made a great attempt at a virtual gala. I guess we can say it was not exactly what we had in mind. However, you know, there's a silver lining in everything. And I think the gala overall, certainly it's a gala we won't forget for a long time. And I think most importantly is Rotarians came through, and particularly the auction itself. We actually believe that because the virtual auction had so many technical difficulties, people were sitting at their computer and decided to go bid on the auction instead, because we had more bidders, more active bidders at this year's virtual auction than we've ever had before. We earned as much on our auction this year as we have in the past, with significantly fewer items. And as you probably remember from galas past, a lot of the items that are donated are tickets to sporting events, ticket to theater events, experiences that were date specific. So we lost a lot of auction items. So we had significantly fewer items. We made virtually the same amount of money. And particularly in the silent auction, where people had a whole full week to go shopping, we made more money than we've ever made before.
Nancy, we're running a little short here. Could you give us some final numbers? Because we lost some time there trying to connect with you guys.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say real quickly that the one thing we added this year, the raffle, that was a huge success, definitely brought us over the top. And then also the committees that came through with their baskets, that was wonderful. That was a significant percentage of the income raised. So I'll turn over to Sarah now.
So I just want to go ahead and thank everybody really quickly for all the support that you gave us. This is certainly an auction that kind of went on, an event that went on, much longer than our committee signed up for. And we appreciate all of our committee members. They're posted on the screen, and couldn't have done it without you. Also with our sponsors. Sponsors are also listed. I'm not going to read them off. Thank you, everyone, for adjusting to what happened this year. And
do we have a final number?
I do. I'm going to drum roll right now.
All right.
So, given all that, the final total for this year's auction was $206,000.
Wow!
So very excited that we will have those to go into Rotary programs and continue to do the work we do in the community. Thank you, everyone. Karen, Leslie, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Terrific. Wow. Cindy Faulkner, you're coming up. You're the CEO of Valley Heating, Cooling, Electric, and Solar. You joined the club in 2003, president in 2016-17. Tell us about the ski committee.
Thank you, President Fernando, for having me on, and to update you about our ski committee, which is a lot of fun. I'm going to try not to bore everyone, but I think I need to share my screen. Not exactly sure where I want to get, host disabled participant screen sharing. Can I do that, John, or am I?
Yeah, I've got to make you a co-host. I'm sorry.
Okay, so in the meantime, I just want to tell you our club has been going on ski trips for over 30 years, and we've been to 30 locations. So there was a year or two that were skipped. The first year was in 1984 or 87 to Park City, and the last was 2020 was Paganella, Italy, which is the Dolomites, and Aspen. So it was a great time. We actually have a trip scheduled for 2021 to Whistler. And I want to tell you, this isn't just for skiers. Lots of non-skiers go. We do have a couple snowboarders. And it's not really organized. You're not going on a bunch of excursions except when we went to Italy. It's more, we have an opening reception and ending gala. And after that, everybody just has fun and organizes their own dinners and excursions that they want to. We just go to some of the most amazing places in in the US, but are particularly seem to love Aspen, which we've been going to, I think, 5 times in a row before we hit Italy this last year. But we had 23 go to Italy and 23 go to Aspen. So it was an incredible group that joined us. We even have our own award that started when the group went to Austria, which was a cowbell, and we handed out to the coolest dude or gal every trip. And, you know, honestly, there's no criteria for what it is. But Sue Smith was our winner last year, and we handed it out to her in Paganella, Italy, in the Dolomites. It was so fantastic. Can I share my screen now?
Yes, you can.
Okay. You got 15 seconds.
No, 15 minutes. I just want to show you this a picture of Sue right here. That's when she got the bell. See how excited she is to the right? Those are all the bell winners. I hope you can see that. Our trip coming up is to Whistler in 2021. And if you want more information, just reach out to me. I can tell you all about it. There's a really great cancellation clause in case, you know, we just absolutely can't go. But let me know. We'd love to have more join us. Okay. So thanks so much, Fernando.
Well, you're a lot of fun, and I'm sure that you guys make it for sure a lot of fun. Right now, I just got a few things to tell you. It's my time. Our club statements, our annual dues are going out tomorrow. So you can pay them by the year or you can pay them by the month according to your finances if you wish. You can do it by credit cards, and you can do it by cash, coin, however you want to do it. So I don't know how many of you tried the Zoom breakout rooms. If you did, let us know. How'd that work out for you? You want any new topics? Tell us if you liked them, if you didn't like it, or as they say back home, max nix, if you don't, doesn't matter to you. But we'd like to know to see if we should continue doing this. This was an idea from Karen Philbrick, and I appreciate that help. Next is something about club trends. I had this in mind that you might want to know that our trends are moving somewhat down in terms of membership. And we've got Jerry Greer and Lindley Zink and Karen Philbrick working with that membership committee to go out there and see if we can change our comfort level a little bit by going beyond our friends and beyond our workmates and start talking to more women, more minorities in leadership positions who will share or believe in our values of Rotary, and see if we can bring them in, because we are missing out on that particular element in our society. And we want to make sure that we reflect the society and communities we serve. And we can do that by bringing in more women and more minorities. Right now, I think the women are about 1/3 of the total, since we admitted women in 1987, 33 years ago. But there's only been 6 women as presidents. And we, I think, agree that it should change and get more of our ladies to become presidents. You have to put them into leadership positions. All of you chairpersons out there, see if you can curry and groom some of our lady Rotarians to become leaders in our organization. You're going to get a survey after our board reviews it. It's a survey on gender, race, and ethnicity, because we don't have that information. And that was something that the Rotary International President of 2019, Mark Maloney, said, you really should understand what you've got in order to see how you can address it. And I think I said last meeting or last week that you can't measure what you don't have information on. So we're going to send that out, assuming the board acts on it next meeting that we have. And so look for that survey. Don't forget, if you want to contact Gay Crawford for your fine opportunity on August 26th, to celebrate your special event. That's our fine opportunity. So just tell her what it is you're proud of or want to tell us about, and how much you want to give to help us fund our committees and fund maybe a wheelchair for a disabled child or an adult. That money goes to wonderful causes that we in our communities support. So don't forget to give her a call. And also, I want to say that you need to end your comments regarding just general stuff and just send us only questions regarding the speaker via the chat feature. That helps out the moderator, who today is Suzanne St. John, who's CEO of the American Leadership Forum, while being chair of the program committee. And she's going to introduce the speaker. Suzanne?
Thanks, Fernando. Appreciate that. Hi, everybody. Hello, Rotarians. Here we are. So when President Fernando asked that the program committee focus on bringing in speakers that connect our club to international causes and crises, I knew immediately who I needed to invite. For the last 4.5 years, Madeleine Fackler has served as the Chief Information Officer at the International Rescue Committee, one of the largest NGOs focused exclusively on the current refugee problem globally. And for those of you that don't know, the IRC responds to the world's worst humanitarian crises and helps people whose lives and livelihoods are shattered by conflict and disaster to survive, recover, and gain control of their future. The IRC operates in more than 40 countries and over 200 cities, and last year, their work supported over 30 million refugees worldwide. So Madeleine moved into the role after having spent 30 years working in high-tech companies, most recently as the CIO of Johnson & Johnson's Consumer Product Group. At the IRC, Madeleine is responsible for providing all of the systems and needed technical infrastructure globally for the staff of 14,000 employees. Most recently, she's been focused on ensuring IRC's work can continue effectively despite the challenges of COVID-19 throughout the globe. So Madeleine, you can't hear them now, but just know that there's a room full of Rotarians giving you a warm welcome and a clap. So please help me in welcoming Madeleine Fackler.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Been back and forth. So I really appreciate having the opportunity to come and talk to you all, and I'll certainly be sensitive on time, as I know the Rotarians are excellent at being able to do, and you sound like a great group. Suzanne's invitation was something I warmly welcome, because anytime we have an opportunity to talk about some of the challenges and issues refugees are facing across the globe, we do our best to be able to make the most of that opportunity. I'll tell you a little bit about the IRC. I'll give you some personal stories as time allows. But a way I always thought was important to enter into the discussion was to share something that I admit I wasn't completely comfortable in explaining when I first started the IRC, which is, what is a refugee? I think all of us know, have a sense that it's individuals, as Suzanne indicated, that have been pushed out of their home. The official legal definition is shown sort of a version of it here. It's someone who's left their home country, been forced out for fear of persecution in some form. And the persecution could be in any of these 5 different areas. It could be because of their race, it could be because of their religion, it could be their nationality or even lack of nationality. The Rohingya are an example of a refugee group that have struggled because of their own nationality not necessarily being recognized in Myanmar and pushed into Bangladesh and others. It could be the social group, it could be the friends that they have, or it could be a political opinion that they have expressed. One of the interesting aspects to understand on a refugee, this is again the international definition, is the difference between a refugee and an asylum seeker, which we hear a lot about in the news today, is that a refugee is outside the country they're trying to get into. An asylum seeker is at the border, as we hear a lot about in Mexico coming into the US, either at the border or inside a country, and for the same set of reasons are seeking permission to stay within that country.
Hey, Madeleine, real quick, I don't think we can see your slides. Sorry, we could see you, but we can't see your slides. So try screen sharing.
Sorry, no problem. Try it again. Oops. Yeah, happy to have you get a chance to see them. There you go. How's that?
Perfect. And we just need to play it so it's big. Thank you.
There you go. No problem. Thanks so much, Suzanne. I appreciate your sharing. So this gives you a sense in terms of some of the numbers. And I'm a numbers person, so I always find these things helpful. So the UN actually tracks the number of refugees worldwide, and there are 30 million of them currently, which is just a staggering number. 37,000 people a day are forced to flee their homes for the reasons that I described. And although we sometimes have images of who refugees might be, the vast majority are children. So I appreciated the comments, Fernando, that I know you all are doing and the Rotary are about a focus on women. We at the IRC are working very hard to be a feminist organization. And this is part of the reason the people we serve most often are women and young children. We tend to think of refugees in camps, and I'm going to show you some pictures of some of the camps I've gotten a chance to see, but the majority of refugees are actually in urban areas. They're not in camps. And today, a dropping number, only 27 countries accept refugees for resettlement. And that doesn't include countries that have put a ban on them, at least temporarily. US is one of those due to COVID-19. And less than 1% of the world's refugees are actually resettled. It takes an average of 10 years today to be a refugee and be allowed into a country. And they are the single most vetted group of individuals attempting to enter at least the United States, true of some other countries as well. You may be intrigued to know it takes 21 steps to be successfully completed before a refugee is actually allowed into the US. So at the IRC, which I've been thrilled to be a part of for the last 4.5 years, but it's quite different than my experiences in the corporate world. I woke up yesterday, I actually head operations now. I'm responsible for safety and security. Real life example of my life is we have a large facility in Beirut. So immediately we put into place to be able to make sure that every one of our employees was safe. I'm pleased to report that they were. But imagine being a beneficiary. Lebanon is actually one of the many places in the Middle East where refugees have settled. They've opened one of those 27 countries. Our employees are safe. Today, we're completely focused on beneficiaries and seeing what we can do to make sure our beneficiaries are getting the support that they need. An interesting aspect of the IRC is that we were actually founded by Albert Einstein. I did not know that at all when I joined. It was Albert Einstein who recognized the needs, particularly of Jews, particularly in Eastern Europe during the 1930s, his fear about what was happening with Nazism in Germany. And he wrote a letter to Eleanor Roosevelt asking her to support the creation of the IRC. And that's how we were formed. So we have both a woman at the heart of what we did, as well as Albert Einstein. Our mission, Suzanne, described very, very well. I'll go through these somewhat quickly because I think sometimes the personal stories affect all of us more. But we are in 40 different countries. This particular slide I pulled out as 30. We actually have really extended our work in South America and Central America. That's where some of the additional items are. And we're in 196 field sites. Another tragic, and I don't mean to share tragic stories, but one that's been very near and dear to my heart, is that we actually had an employee who was abducted in northeast Nigeria in Africa, one of our more remote field sites, and he was executed, we believe about 2 weeks ago. Types of things no humanitarian aid worker should ever lose their life. He was a child protection agent, and just heartbreaking to us. But those are the stories that scare us. But what we do, one of our comments is when people run out of countries, we as humanitarian aid workers and organization run in. We're also unique in that we're the only group that does this type of work that not only focuses internationally, which is where about 90% of our work is done, we also do resettlement within the United States. And Northern California is actually the single biggest area we do it. I don't know for those of you on the phone, but there may be folks who are aware of our work in San Jose. We have a resettlement center, as well as Oakland, Sacramento, and Turlock, as well as groups in San Diego and Los Angeles, but across a variety of different locations within the US. In terms of our program focus, we have 5 dominant areas. We focus on health, safety, education, helping individuals on their economic well-being. What we mean by that is helping them be self-reliant, helping women understand what it takes to open up a beauty salon, something we do a great deal of women throughout the areas that we work. And a focus on fundamentally changing some of the power struggles and power challenges, particularly women face when they're put in these camps, often in some pretty difficult and challenging situations. One of the programs I'd highlight for you that we're particularly excited by is we actually are doing a program right now with Sesame Street. We won a $100 million grant to work with Sesame Street to develop programs for Syrian refugee children. We actually, with them, developed a Syrian refugee girl Muppet, and she is assisting us in programs we're rolling out around education. So I'm going to take you to one refugee camp and then open it up for questions or comments that anyone wants to share. I've had an opportunity to travel personally to a variety of the camps where we work. Two of them that I think are just interesting to get a chance to see are actually both outside of Amman, Jordan. This is a camp, Azraq. It houses 35,000 refugees in about 11 different neighborhoods. If you look at the picture in the middle, I just found this an amazing example of the human spirit. They have a street, sort of a path is probably a better description, but they have a street in the middle of this camp where individuals sign up to actually sell wares. It's called Champs-Élysées. And individuals have an opportunity to take some of their skills and maybe are providing it. And I love this particular example because you may not be obvious. It wasn't to me as I went by it. Those are actually hair ribbons that are being sold to other women in the camp to wear. Underneath, obviously, most of them are Muslim. Most of them are completely veiled. But how exciting to be able to see these beautiful items, handmade, that are being sold on the Champs-Élysées in the Azraq refugee camp in Jordan. This actually shows you the same camp was the world's first refugee camp powered exclusively by renewable energy. So they used it as an example. It's all done, sun they have a lot of in this camp. You can tell by sort of the desert environment. And they worked with a third party, and we were not directly involved. Some of our partner agencies were, and to be able to power the camp itself, which I just thought was particularly interesting to share. Another aspects I always love, I have, you see my IRC lanyard on in black, and this is actually part of that camp. I call this My Girls Will Be Girls. This is a different refugee camp. This is about an hour from Azraq. It's I never pronounce this correctly, Za'atri. It actually has 85,000 Syrian refugees. And this group was particularly touched my heart. These are young girls under the age of 18 who crossed the border into Jordan alone. In many cases, refugee children are orphans. Their parents may have been killed. Their mother may have actually suggested they attempt to get over the border because this would be a better, safer environment. We run a program for individuals between the ages of 12 and 18, and we house them, we take special care of them. And I happen to be visiting them on a day once a month where they have a program with the boys in the camp who are also orphans. They play music and get a chance to interact and just be teenagers, something I think all of us crave. And the IRC employees who had come in actually had brought some makeup, some different things for the girls to use. And what they wanted more than anything was to take a selfie with me. So I always treasure this particular picture just as an example of we're all just alike all the way across the globe, but they've experienced things I've never experienced. The last thing I wanted to point out was something else I found heartwarming. If you remember the slides I showed you earlier, one thing that's unusual about the refugee camps in Jordan, many of them, is that they were actually built all at one time. And for doing it, they were all this white material that, again, out in the middle of the desert. We actually brought in a series of artists, and we paid for the paint, And they brought children with them, or encouraged the children throughout the camp to come, and they decided what to paint their homes in. And I love the picture on the top left of the woman with a child, just reminding us all of just the amazing things each of us can do when we put our own mind to making the places we live special. So take you from that very sterile environment of that first picture to this one, which I found particularly special. Then given the time, what I'd like to do is stop, because I want to make sure that I'm answering questions any of you might have. Suzanne, if you want to help me, just help me know what some of the questions might be, that would be great.
I have been triaging all the questions coming in here.
Great.
So I've got a few. Thanks so much, Madeleine. That was very moving. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Question just regarding, I think it's top of mind for many of us, just these pictures we see of kids separated from their parents at the border, right? Is the IRC working in this country to reunite those separated children in camps, in cages essentially, to be with their families? What role is the IRC playing there?
Yeah, we're doing everything that we can. We find it absolutely abhorrent. We are committed. We're an organization that a significant part of our funding is from government groups, and we remain committed by following the laws of the land of any country that we are a part of, including the US. You can imagine the challenge that creates for us, just given some of these issues. But we work with the ACLU and other groups. We are on the border, particularly in Arizona, to be able to be there to support asylum seekers as they come over. And we've been doing everything that we can to make sure that the voices of this group that can't typically be heard understand and are aware of the conditions these children are living in, and everything we can do to help reunite folks together. So short answer, yes, we absolutely are.
That's got to be a challenge, though, given the law and given the quote law of the land, right?
Exactly.
Has the IRC worked with Rotary International at all in terms of immunizing refugees against polio? Of course, that's one of the big Rotary causes. Just curious if there's any synergy there. Or...
Yeah, it's a great question. I've actually been asked a variation of it before, and I don't think we actually are, but I'd love to explore something like that further. You know, there's so many fantastic Rotary groups, and seeing how we can best partner in some of the locations where we are, particularly in the US, we would be interested in following up on. But the direct answer, I don't think we are today.
Let's take note, Rotarians. Another question here. How does the IRC work with other nonprofits in local areas to provide services to their clients? I would imagine you all have a lot of partnerships locally.
Yeah, we actually do a great deal of that. In fact, we consider that a critical component of the work we do. I shared with you the 5 different areas of focus that we have. And one of the things that we do is if we go into a country or in the US, even as an example, if we don't feel we're best equipped to be able to provide that service, we'll immediately look at other groups to figure out how we can better service the needs. So we, you name the organization and we absolutely partner with it.
That's great. Sounds like we have a Rotarian that's worked with IRC's San Jose office to help outfit apartments for IRC refugees in the past.
Thank you, whoever that is. Thank you. I know that folks do that on a regular basis. That's fantastic.
It's Timothy Hegstrom.
Timothy, thank you.
Yeah. And his question was, what are the factors that affect the number of resettlements? I think he was commenting, it seems that there are fewer resettlements occurring here lately.
Yeah, I could spend 20 minutes on this topic alone, so I'll try to be brief. So the executive branch of the U.S. government each year by the end of September by law, so the end of their fiscal year, they set the maximum number of refugees that will be allowed into the U.S. It'll be the highest number that has ever been in effect is 175,000. The largest numbers, people may be intrigued to know, actually have been with Republican presidents. That doesn't feel quite the way now, but that was the highest number. When Obama left office, he had set the maximum for his year at 120,000. This year, we're at 30,000. It has been cut in half every year of this administration. And no refugee has been allowed into the US since March. So the number for this year, we have 7,800 refugees have been allowed into the United States this year. We do not expect any more to be allowed given the COVID-19 concerns, which we understand. But again, I go back to the comment I made earlier, 21 steps, including complete health checks, biometric data before a refugee is ever allowed in. And the other comment I would add that's important is that some of you, I'm sure, remember that there was a list of countries that were individuals were no longer allowed to enter the U.S. regardless of status. That was where the largest number of refugees were coming from.
Right. Thank you, Madeleine. Another question here. In general, do most refugee children receive a basic education? That's got to vary, I would imagine, from place.
Yeah, it varies by area. The example I gave you on Sesame Street and the work we're doing there, I think is an excellent one because we're working very, very hard, particularly with Syrian refugees in the Middle East, and I gave you two examples. So in any of the cases, so camps are funded primarily through the UN, and it depends on how the UN has established the funding for that group. They subcontract to organizations like ours, Save the Children, and others that we all partner together within these camps to run the programs. And it just may be, I mean, the UN obviously always intends to make sure education is given. It's not as consistent as we would like to see.
Right. I would imagine COVID-19 has affected your work tremendously. Right? I mean, everyone I'm talking to who deals with
exactly.
Senior fellows deal with, trying to do remote learning. I mean, that's everything right now. It's in remote operations. The technology is everything. So tell us a little bit about how you've managed that.
Yeah, it's also a great question. We went from our headquarter and Western Europe employees, went from fully remote in less than 48 hours. Now, I'm sure several of you on the call have similar stories. I spend 8 to 10 hours a day on Zoom, Teams, webinar calls. And we have continued our work almost, exactly as we have done, but with the difference of doing everything we can to keep the communication going. Good news, bad news, depends on your perspective, is that because testing is so limited throughout Africa, many of the places that we work, the claim is that, COVID-19 hasn't substantially impacted the work that we do, particularly in Africa. So that program work has actually continued pretty well. We had, my data is a week old, we have probably 48 employees that have tested positive. I'm sure it's more than that, but that's the data I have out of that 14,000. But where I will tell you COVID-19 has had a significant impact, and we know refugees are not alone. But we reached out to every refugee we had been involved in resettling over the last 3 to 5 years. 80% said COVID-19 had impacted their ability to work and/or their financial well-being. Now, again, we may have a similar statistic if you asked other groups, but it was really, really concerning to us.
Yeah. And how much financial support do the world's, richest countries, wealthy countries provide for what you're doing?
Yeah, so we have our overall revenue base is about 800 million, to size it for you. 80% of that comes from government funding of some variety, whether it be or UN. So the rough way the IRC operates, I can't speak to everyone else, but the rough way the IRC operates is of our funding, about 20% is private fundraising from individuals, corporations. A third comes from the UN. A third comes from the US government, and a third is other governments. The UK and actually Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, so Northern Europe have been the most aggressive in terms of some of these programs in supporting us. There are some groups, the IRC is unusual in another way, which is that we have many, many people of faith within our staff, but we are not a specific religious affiliated organization. So Compassion, many of the Jewish refugee groups get their funding from within their religious group within the US. We're not, but that does open us up to the government funding.
Got it. You've got some fans here, in particular, the Muppets and the Syrian
I'm
refugees.
so glad so many of you saw the 60-minute episode. I thought it was great. We loved it.
All right. Here's a different kind of question for you, which I'm intrigued by as well. How is the IRC involved in planning for population disruptions due to climate change? We're hearing a lot more and more about that.
Absolutely. It is a great question. And one of the things, we're undertaking a new strategic plan. We've just finished a 5-year strategic plan, and now our next one will be rolling out in the next 6 months is Strategy 100. Believe it or not, we are close to being almost 100 years old. So the 100 reflects that. And it's one of the single biggest additions we're adding to the strategy plan is the climate change impact. So many folks are losing their homes, not because of the 5 areas I highlighted, but because of climate change. I've given you examples of the Middle East where we do work. We do a lot of work in Africa, but we also do a lot of work in Asia. We have one of the issues that we're coping with is we run in Bangladesh, which I gave you an example of earlier. These camps are not quite as nice, believe it or not, as the ones I've shown you. They're mostly tents that have been set up, and you may have followed in the news. The rain and the flooding in Bangladesh has been particularly bad so far this summer. And those are things that we're dealing with both in the camps and individuals losing their homes. So as more and more communities are lost, given the rising water throughout the globe, this is becoming a bigger issue and another aspect of refugee work, either directly or indirectly because of displacement of individuals. I gave you that 30 million number of refugees. There's 70 million people, of which 30 is a component, that have been displaced for the reasons I described or climate change. So there's actually, if you do the math, easy math, there's actually, we believe, more people impacted by climate change at the moment, even than refugee status.
Wow. That's a scary and powerful statistic. We're glad you're here for sure. Another question here, in view of current, I think we've got a few more minutes left for questions. So in view of current restrictions on folks coming to the US, are other countries stepping up to help the Central American folks that are under asylum in particular?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll be honest, I haven't heard of a lot of countries stepping up. There is, a lot of Europe were very heavily involved, probably 4 or 5 years ago. In fact, when I first started with the IRC, as individuals were flowing out of particularly Africa, you heard a lot of that. Lesbos in Greece was a focal point, a place where we still do a great deal of work. So you start seeing that, and then you see the political challenges of, so many countries have taken on so many different people that it's been hard for them to focus elsewhere. So I'm not aware. I'm sure there are countries, and some of you on this call may have more information than I do, of individuals helping some of the places in Latin America in particular, or Central America, but we haven't seen a lot. And it's part of the reason in Central America that we've started engaging. So we actually, side note, from a technology view, we actually just went live with a new finance system in Mexico over this last weekend. Excited to be able to have it. It was one of the first systems we did, fully bilingual, so it's fully Spanish and English. And it's just an example of our ongoing presence and work as we move into Latin America, or Central America in particular. So, we want to see more countries actively engaged, but we also recognize the challenges of countries and what they're dealing with. Now add COVID-19 to it. We're quite concerned, given the pressures that countries have financially, given what they need to do appropriately to make sure the economic well-being of their own citizens is covered. But our assumption is that one of the places they'll get that funding from, US is a prime example, will be the work they're spending through their Foreign Service, State Department related work. One final point, at least in this subject, that might be of interest is that the country that has the most number of refugees per capita will probably surprise you. It's Uganda. Uganda is one of the only countries in the world that has completely open borders. They have told everyone who wants to come to come. They will welcome them all. They have not turned anyone away. And as a result, they have the highest percentage. And as you think about Uganda, where the average livelihood of a citizen is so low, imagine this is a country that have made a commitment that they're going to share whatever they have. It's really heartwarming. And you go to Uganda, and I've had a chance to visit there. It's absolutely heartwarming to see how they've welcomed everyone throughout the globe.
It's amazing. Wow. One last question. Looks like if a camp has access to the internet, could good basic education for kids in large groups through organizations like Khan Academy be used? I'm sure you guys are on that.
Yes, we are. And the answer is yes. So we continue to look as different capabilities are there. I mean, a fascinating site for me has been often when you go into a camp, camps are heavily protected. Again, people are there because they have been persecuted. So one of the things we do is literally there's large fences, et cetera, around them. And you go up and you see mostly young boys sitting against the fences and the walls. The reason they're doing that is they're getting internet access, because we have internet access in the camps. It's a really interesting site, and you start realizing just how important that is. One of the things that we've done, we have a program called Signposts, and we actually create for different communities, refugees can tell each other when they arrive in a new location. We did it in Lesbos in Greece was one of the first places we implemented it. And we just actually implemented it in Colombia over the last 2 weeks. So another Latin American example. And they actually, we provide the platform, they provide the information, and they curate it themselves. So go to this particular individual is allowing people to come, refugees to come and stay. They're charging, less than normal rates. Here's where you can get the food you're familiar with, and it's all posted online thanks to the internet. So off topic, but yes, good basic education, we agree, is something we continue to look more at.
Wonderful. Madeleine, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, this is the call to action for Rotarians is clear to get engaged in the work, and hopefully we can continue some more or begin some thriving partnerships with IRC. So I'm going to turn it back over to President Fernando. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate getting a chance to join you all.
Don't go away, Em. Don't go away. I want to thank you for today's riveting program. I heard David Milbank, head of the IRC, on 60 Minutes a couple of Sundays ago. And man, the work you guys do really, really is amazing and very, very emotionally touching. Those Sesame Street characters that they created, Basma and Jad, that's pretty cool to see those children really warm up to those creatures. And evidently $100 million that the MacArthur Foundation isn't going to be enough for what you guys go through. You got a lot of work to do. Well, listen, we can't match the MacArthur Foundation, but we got a contribution that has been made on your behalf and on behalf of all of our program speakers to our city forest. It's a local nonprofit that will go out and over my year will plant 46 shade trees. And that's going to be in East San Jose, lower income neighborhoods in East San Jose. And we're going to combat the environment, the heat islands that exist where there aren't any trees, and that climate change where the trees will cool things down and benefit the neighborhoods. So we want to thank you for coming today and talking to us, sharing with us this exciting work that you do. Rotarians, don't forget, you've got some Rotary masks if you want to get them. Call Kathleen Thomas. It helps our Disaster Relief Committee funds. And if you have some things for which you're grateful for and you want to have a fine opportunity, get in touch with Gay Crawford. So next week's speaker is Cindy Chavez. Most of you know her. She's president this year of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. And during this COVID-19 pandemic, she's been dealing with some really critical issues. We're in a fiscal crisis and it's getting worse. But she's dealing with all of these complicated issues and still getting some things done. So come and hear how she does it. So I think that's it. And paraphrasing, as I say, my favorite immigrant governor, hasta la vista, Rotarians. This meeting stands adjourned. Until next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Great meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. You all stay safe.
Bye, guys.
See y'all later.